This is an Australia Day message by the Governor-General, His Excellency, the Honourable Bill Hayden.
I'm speaking to you this Australia Day from the study at Admiralty House. The Governor-General's residence here on Sydney Harbour. I often think the harbour is a place that, as much as anywhere, comes close to the heart of our identity as a nation. There's the beauty of the natural environment itself. There's the sun and the sea, brimming with outdoor life. It was at Sydney Cove that the First Fleet landed and began the history of European settlement. There's a powerful uniting symbol of the bridge, the towers of commercial enterprise in the city, and the Opera House, reminding us of Australia's cultural achievements, and from where Dame Joan Sutherland made her farewell to the International Opera Stage a few months ago. There is the constant shipping in and out of the harbour, ships that link the ports of this island continent with each other and the rest of the world through trade and commerce. Ships and aircraft bringing new settlers and tourists from overseas. It was from Sydney Harbour that the Royal Australian Navy ships left for the Persian Gulf last year at this difficult time in world affairs.
Bye, Daddy!
And it's to all those Australians and their families who've been involved in these events that our thoughts turn on this Australia Day. And by that I mean not just the members of the Defence Force, whose courage and devotion to duty, as they have once again displayed, are in the finest traditions of this country. I also mean those who were held as hostages. We all shared their anguish at being unable freely to rejoin their families and friends. And I think too of those people who have migrated here from the Middle East to begin new lives for themselves, but who at times have faced prejudice and hostility because of their backgrounds. Such attitudes must be resisted. They go against all those individual values and democratic traditions we cherish. 50 years ago, last September, during another world crisis, the training ship Dunera berthed in Sydney Harbour after a terrible voyage from Britain. It was carrying more than 1,600 men, many of them Jewish, who had escaped the atrocities of Nazism in Germany and Austria. They'd gone to Britain seeking liberty, but in the hysteria of war, they were interned and shipped as enemy aliens under intolerable conditions in the Dunera to prison camps at Hay and Tatura. Now, it was to the great credit of the Australian ethic of a fair go that the enormity of what had happened was recognised, and many of the men returned to Europe to fight alongside the Allied forces. At war's end, 900 of them settled in Australia, and it's remarkable how many became distinguished in the arts and sciences, in the universities, in sport and the professions in this country. Their contribution to our national life has been profound. And what I said at the Dunera anniversary is worth repeating this Australia Day. Always it is essential to judge people as individuals for what they are, and not on the basis of some collective stereotype. Not only can great injustices occur, but without the fair go, this country would never have become what it is today. Most of us are migrants or descended from migrants. Since the Second World War, more than 4 million people have come here from over 120 different countries. Not only has this diversity increased the productive resources of Australia, it has enriched our social and cultural lives, helping us to turn outward to the world and to learn the great lessons of toleration. Of course, tolerance and understanding must cut both ways. Nor does this just apply to migrants. There are many other groups in our society also looking for a fair go. Not far away from the harbour, in the suburbs of this city, and in the cities and towns and rural districts across Australia, there are people in need, people facing unemployment, people having to get by on reduced incomes, people who are trying to overcome the handicap of social, economic, and educational disadvantage. It's easy enough to turn our backs and blame people themselves. The hard thing is to maintain a sense of decency and social justice for all. But we owe it to ourselves, and especially we owe it to the young people with whom the future of this country lies. Last month, I was at the annual presentation day at Cleveland Street High School in the inner suburbs of Sydney, a school where 70% of the students are Aborigines or migrants, and many of them from quite disadvantaged backgrounds. Yet the talents, the industry, the enthusiasm of these youngsters were as great as those I've come across anywhere, and their contribution to our future can be no less. The important thing is to keep up the encouragement, to give a hand where it's needed, to help them to make the most of the opportunities that this nation has to offer. By doing so, we're also helping ourselves to make the best use of the skills, the intelligence, and the commitment of all our people. Sydney Harbour is a great symbol of the wealth, the beauty, the human energy and individual creativeness of this country. All those strengths that we need to draw on if we are to find our place in this changing world. But it will need all of us if we are to realise those assets in the years ahead, and thereby sustain the promise of an honourable, fulfilling and fair way of life for everyone.